I had mentioned that there was a Supreme Court ruling, or I should say a refusal to rule in some respects from the Supreme Court regarding states two states that very well may play pivotal roles in the outcome of this election. The big one is Pennsylvania. Donald Trump has been keyed in on Pennsylvania. We already know there have been reports, a piece that was in by Bart Gellman in the New Yorker, I believe it was, magazine, that in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania lawmakers have already begun to contemplate the scenario where the resolution of their state election is pushed so far into the future that they rely on the demand that they have electors to send to Washington, D.C. by the third week of December. This is what happened in the 2000 in Florida. It was December 14th, I believe it was, that Al Gore conceded after the Supreme Court had said they were not going to count any more ballots in Florida. And it was December 13th, excuse me. While that was happening in Tallahassee, the capital of Florida, the Republican legislature had already begun the process of choosing Republican electors who were going to vote for Bush regardless of what the outcome was. In this year, we have Wisconsin, North Carolina, Michigan, and potentially now Pennsylvania, where we will have a scenario where where the question of what ballots to count will be up in the air and being bounced around by the courts enough that they could theoretically use that opportunity to say, well, look, we're the state legislature. The Constitution does not say that we actually have to follow the outcome of the vote. We're convinced that the outcome of the vote is in doubt in some manner or another. We're going to simply vote on who the electors are, and all of our electors are going to support Donald Trump. The right-wing media, I mean, obviously Donald Trump has been promoting this for this sort of mentality for some time. Here's Donald Trump in Las Vegas, Nevada. He is saying he hopes the courts won't allow vote counts past Tuesday. Now, this is a really important distinction. The question isn't whether people can vote after Tuesday. The question is whether votes that have been cast before Tuesday can be counted. Now, this happens all the time. It happens in California. Martha McSally lost in her race to Kristen Sinema in Arizona 2 weeks after the election. Al Franken, when he won in Minnesota in 2012, was not seated, 2008, was not seated for months because they were still counting ballots, recounts and whatnot. So the idea of counting ballots after Election Day is not a novel one. The idea of stopping the counting because we don't want to count past Election Day is the only thing that's radically new. Here's Donald Trump promoting that in Las Vegas.
Hopefully, the few states remaining that want to take a lot of time after November 3rd to count ballots, that won't be allowed by the various courts because, as you know, we're in courts on that. We just had a big victory yesterday in Wisconsin on that matter. So hopefully that won't be happening. Okay?
And the victory he's talking about in Wisconsin was the Supreme Court. We mentioned that yesterday with Rick Hassan, that the Supreme Court said a state court cannot overrule its own legislature on this regard, even if it is inconsistent, or I should say a federal court cannot overrule the state legislature on this, even if it is inconsistent with the idea of letting people vote. And the question at hand with North Carolina and Pennsylvania is whether a state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania can say, because of COVID and because of the state's constitution, which says that we need to provide a free and fair election, that we need a couple more days for people to be able to count the votes, not to cast a vote. And in North Carolina, it is a question whether election officials can make that determination. The Supreme Court has let them stand for now. But again, we said that they're sequestering those ballots that are counted after 8 p.m. Or I should say, come in after 8 p.m. on Election Day. They've been cast on Election Day or prior to Election Day, but they don't arrive because the mail is late. We not only have Donald Trump out there saying that you shouldn't count ballots past November 3rd, we're now seeing his mouthpiece, Fox News, do the same thing. Here's Fox and Friends. This morning, conflating the idea of counting ballots that have been cast on or before November 3rd with the idea of counting ballots that are cast after November 3rd.
I will say this. I was stunned to see that number that you mentioned, Ainsley, is a lot. But all of last election in 2016, 139 million. So we're past the halfway point. The people voted already. What I find discouraging is that the Supreme Court is letting North Carolina and Pennsylvania extend the time in which they're counting ballots. Are you kidding? Hey, guys, there's a siren on. If you have a ballot, mail it in. What's taking so long? Yeah. Why do you need extra days?
Great question.
Nobody needs extra days. It's a function of the post office. We have a federal judge who has not only ruled that the post office needs to stop purposely slowing down the mail, but that the post office needs to listen to the federal judge who first said you got to stop slowing down the mail. They wouldn't listen the first time around. So it's not a question of casting your ballot in the right amount of time. It's a question of whether the facilities that people are relying on and have been told to rely on do their job and deliver the ballot. That's the question here. But they're already starting to conflate it, right? Like if you mail your ballot in today and it doesn't get there till Wednesday, according to Fox News, well, then you have some type of moral failing. Your ballot shouldn't count. Judge Emmett Sullivan of the District Court for the District of Columbia had already reversed mail collection limitations set by Donald Trump's Postmaster General Louis DeJoy. On Tuesday of this week, Sullivan granted a plaintiff's plea, so this is voters essentially, to actually comply with that order. There are 4 voters. They claim that the U.S. Postal Service has been dragging its feet in complying with the order that Sullivan had issued to speed up, to stop slowing down the mail. And so Sullivan basically said, here is a detailed list of demands, which I am insisting that the U.S. Postal Service use to comply with his order. They have to send directives around to personnel that are explicit and make it clear that mail carriers are not to follow the Postmaster General's instructions that would slow mail delivery. And those directives were supposed to be sent out by yesterday morning. We have a federal judge who's not only telling the post office to stop slowing down the mail, but to actually listen to him when he says stop slowing down the mail. So the idea that people are shirking their duty by putting in ballots is absurd.